Tom,
What's up?
how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing good. This is our first episode with a new toy.
Yeah.
So I'm always very excited to play with new toys.
I mean,
As is the pretense of our entire show.
This is super cool. We should have done this off the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, this is fun. Yeah, 100% fun. So we'll see how it goes. I don't want to like spoil it by telling anybody, but if this works out, I'm probably going to blather on about this thing for endless amounts of time. So
Yeah.
I'm just
the setup for the entire thing has gotten ridiculously easy on both of our ends if this works.
Yeah. Like, in fact, I might have to go back and record every previous episode.
Oh, please, let's not do that, man.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Oh, man. So anyway, what are you up to these days?
Man, the same old. I got the COVID blues. I got to say, somebody at the gym today mentioned that there weren't as many people in class, and there seemed to be more. And our coach has opened up a Zoom class since the onset of COVID. And, he's got some high risk clients, some people recovering from cancer and whatnot that work out, and they haven't been at the gym since, or they have very sporadically. But with this next spike, right? I mean, they're talking about Omicron kind of peaking now. I feel like a bunch more people were on Zoom and there was a few less people in the class.
We were talking about this with a friend of mine, and I used to go to a lot of in-person events, right? Networking type events, new client meetings. I mean, a lot of in-person stuff.
Yeah.
And for obvious reasons, that's like completely gone.
Yeah.
But now that we've got a chance to kind of dip back into it and open it up, it's not really coming back. Like it at least in those arenas, it really has not resurfaced. So I'm actually curious, is this like the new way of doing business? Like not just business, but going to Zoom classes for your workout and, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Like if we watch the Jetsons or some shit, I mean, that's what the future was, right? Like the doctor pops up on a TV screen and a pill shoots through a tube.
Yeah, right.
Like
100%.
What's the difference? Maybe this just accelerated that change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows? On one hand, I gotta be, I've tried to break this down for myself. On the one hand, I'm a little bummed that it's not, in person and whatnot. But on the other hand, I'm extremely happy I don't have to fucking leave my house. It's like a double-edged sword here. Like, I don't know how to feel about it.
I'm so upset that I'm an acupuncturist and I can't figure out how to put needles in via the internet.
Sure. But I've been a big fan of Mark Devine's for a long time with the Seal Fit program and stuff. And somebody like him, if you're not I think he's in Coronado, like California, like if you're not in Coronado and don't have whatever gazillion dollars it costs to do a Seal Fit training with him, you kind of shit out of luck. But for $19 a month, you can subscribe to, his Kokora yoga, practice, which is kind of like a harder core yoga situation. And I really liked it, but it's not, I mean, that business model couldn't have existed 5 years ago, like 3 years ago. Like, I mean, there's no way. Nobody would have, people are like, fuck you, I'm not taking a yoga class online. What's wrong with you?
But I mean, look at it, how many more people you have the potential to reach too, right? There's no studio that you're going to have hundreds of people in.
No, that blew up their people like that's business model, like go through the roof. I mean, that's revenue streams like beyond anything they could have ever done.
Especially when we first closed and everybody was locked down, they were begging for stuff to do, right? So if they found stuff they loved, right, they're in.
And it's funny, going back to the time back in the beginning of the pandemic, nobody would have ever I mean, it took me probably 6 months to wrap my head around an online yoga class. Like, I mean, I had to go through the 12 stages of of grief or whatever, 9 stages of grief, whatever they were, to get to the point where I'm like, fine, I'm in acceptance. Like,
Yeah.
buy the damn test or the damn class online. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting tale to tell, right? We don't know where this goes.
Well, and to your point, I mean, I have a social worker at my office that has been trying to come back since we reopened, and all of her clients prefer virtual.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, she's got a 6-month waiting list right now. There's no one to refer to because they're all booked solid, and none of them are in an office.
Nope. I mean, that's never going back. I mean,
why
ever.
Would you?
Why would you? Right.
Like, I feel bad if like somebody's like agoraphobic or doesn't want to leave the house, and it's like, oh, you're going to get therapy in your house.
Yeah, I mean, like, good Lord. Yeah, and it's not, I mean, a family member is a therapist. 2 family members are therapists, and they're never going back to an office. I mean, same thing. He's one of them is booked out, I don't know, probably like 10 hours a day.
Yeah, crazy.
Like, it just like never nonstop, and it's, on the one hand, he said it's, it's quite tiring, it's taxing. But on the other hand, he's like, I'm in the prime of my career. I'm making money hand over fist, and I'm helping a tremendously large amount of people. He's like, it's kind of a win all the way around, and I don't have to leave my house, which, has some physical detriments. It takes a little bit more discipline to stay on top of physical fitness and nutrition, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so anyway, it's funny. We're all having the same conversation. I feel like every human that's involved in being alive right now has the same progression of conversation.
I think it's so different for like clearly hospital workers and things like that. And like, I'm joking, I got like 2.5 months off, and then it was back to business as usual. But the people that do need to be in person, I feel like they're just getting dumped on across the board.
Oh yeah.
And that's without the Great Resignation,
But it's funny. I mean, don't get me started on the Great Resignation.
Oh no.
I mean, the Great Resignation is just basically it is people just realizing the leverage that they had, which we have known about for a long time, but like nobody speaks up, right? And I get so aggravated because I hear people complaining about how bad their job is or how bad their boss is. Meanwhile, they're a developer or a project manager at a tech company. I'm like, you understand, you don't have some niche skill that nobody needs. You could literally get a job in any tech company you want. So why are you sitting at this company bitching about how bad your life is? Just fucking get a different job. It's not as though you can't. Like, and I want to be clear that we're not talking about people that are, impoverished or with crazy limited skill sets. I mean, these are fairly broad reaching skill sets with a lot of people who need that skill set. Like, stop complaining, take a little personal responsibility, and get the fuck to a better job. I mean, period.
Well, I maybe like, so with the Great Resignation, I'm sure there's some that are doing that. And then others are like,
what now they're all doing. That's what my point is. Now they are all doing it. And so this is a result of employers not paying attention.
I mean, I think this was one of the things, and now you're going to call me a socialist, but I think once we started to see unions, you can.
I mean, I might. I shouldn't make promises I can't keep.
But once we started seeing these unions weaken, right? I think people for a while, when you're kind of fractured, when you're on your own and you think you're the only one getting shafted and no one else is going to speak up. And then all of a sudden you realize that everyone at your office is miserable. Yeah. You leverage power.
Sure. No, I mean, but the flip side of this, the dark side of this, if you will, is that you do have people walking across the street in January to get a job that'll pay them, X dollars more. And then in March, they'll walk across a different street and get another job, and they'll jump up another couple bucks. And so, in the beginning of the Great Resignation, I think a lot of it was like boiling point had happened, right? Time to get the hell out of here. Now they're realizing that, hey man, I could just keep bouncing around and just keep making more money every time I go, because there is a shortage of skilled labor. So like, it's not. So now it's like, no, you do have to either overpay to keep your people, or pay through the nose to get, top talent, if you could even find them.
Well, that's the same thing that's happening in the nursing world, right? I mean, nursing has always been a reliable job. People could always find work. And now we've got shortages at hospitals, and some of these people I've had in the last 3 months, I've had 5 different nurses quit a pretty good position and say, F it, this place in Jersey is going to give me $90 an hour for 3 months. Right. Then they're going to give me $2,000 a week for housing.
Yeah, right. And if I stay in the Best Western, I can bank a ton of money, which I'm saying that out of, I know somebody who basically stayed at a cheaper hotel while they were traveling and
just cleaned up.
Just cleaned up. Yeah.
Totally. And some of these nurses are in their 20s. I mean,
right. And they're banging it. I mean,
they can work 3 months, pay off their student loans, take a month off, jump back in and bank more than I could ever possibly dream of.
But this comes full circle to a broader argument though, right? Like, I've heard this from multiple people. They go on vacation and the restaurants have signs out. Can't work closed. No staff. Right. Or, you walk in and there's 50 tables at a restaurant and there's 2 waiters or 3 waiters. And you're like, why did it take me 45 minutes to get my eggs when there was 6 people in the restaurant? Right. And so like I said, I was a waiter for a long time. I tell my kids, I said, that's one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. Right.
Really?
Oh, I loved it. I was a waiter for most of high school, all of college. Like I years in a dozen different places, right? I mean, I loved it. And, it's the one job you can get no matter where you're at, right? If you're a good
you
waiter,
can definitely walk in and
you walk in, you can do it. You walk into 5 restaurants, you're walking out with the job of one of them, right? It's a very easy thing to get. And right now, that statement's probably never been more true in the history of restaurants than it is right now.
Oh, they're hurting. But it's a very different dynamic, I think, when, I have a lot of restaurant owners that come in.
Sure.
They're still struggling. I mean, COVID has just been one assault after another.
Oh, no question.
Versus a giant hospital, when you have administrators making well into like 7 or 8 figures. I mean, it's a different. It hits different. It's the same problem, though. I mean, I know a lot of those restaurateurs. Not all of them are Wolfgang Puck and selling, copper,
right,
and pottery on the QVC channel. Most of them are struggling to get by.
No, I don't doubt that at all. But I guess where I was going with that was, waiters make like $3 an hour, and then they have to rely on tips, right?
That's a bastard rule too.
No, it's stupid. But you know what? Everyone's like, well, how come nobody wants this waiter job? I'm like, well, I'll tell you why. Because it pays $3 an hour and the tips are a crapshoot. And the reality is like, if you're not paying attention and personable and paying attention to details all the time, you could very easily not make a great living being a waiter. I cleaned up as a waiter. Like, it's like I made a fortune as a waiter, and it was because I'm super personable and I paid attention to every little minute detail, made sure they were taken care of. And as a result, I got good tips. I know people I worked with I could point to a dozen people in each restaurant I ever worked at that were not the same way.
Yeah.
And that's why I always hated pooled tips in the house, because I'm working my balls off and some jackass next to me isn't. And so people are like, you know what? There's easier ways to make money. Fuck, I can go to work at Chick-fil-A and make more money than a waiter now.
Yeah, like, pulled tips is the group project of... It's like there's going to be one person that's getting that A.
Yeah, and a bunch of people just calling it in. Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. But I mean, at what point do we realize as a society that we've been dramatically underpaying certain jobs? I mean, nobody wants to work in fast food because it pays shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the Burger King there and a place that I just went to on a road trip was closed. What reality of the world would a Burger King ever be closed?
Yeah. I mean, those were the blue chip franchises.
Yeah,
if you bought one of those, you knew you were going to make money.
Right.
It's crazy.
And you're sitting there going, Burger King is closed because nobody is working it. Like, that is absolutely jaw-dropping to me. And
it's crazy.
And the same thing at a place near the lake. It's there's Perkins there. Perkins has been around for how long? I don't even know. Decades. Perkins closed for breakfast. Breakfast place closed. That's the only thing that they're. It's the only reason people go to Perkins is for breakfast.
Yeah.
Like, how are you closed? And then the one time I ended up going there because it was open, there was like literally 2 waitresses for the entire place.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, wow, this is intense, and, people are like, look, I'm not slinging hash browns and greasy griddle omelets for, sub minimum
$3 an
wage,
hour. Yeah.
$3 an hour. Yeah. Fuck that. And a bunch of tourists who don't want to tip, you know what I mean? Like I'm not. Yeah,
I keep joking that if this acupuncture thing doesn't pan out, I'm going to start an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't know who will watch. It'll probably just be one really creepy dude.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Oh my God. But I mean, the world is a weird place right now, and like then you start getting into like, I mean, I think because it's everyone's. I don't think. I mean, it's clearly because of this, but with all this time at home. How weird have the conversations just been continuing to get? I mean, it's like kind of defies logic a lot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Everything. Literally pick any topic.
Am I the only one?
No, there is a radical extremist sentiment that you will hear within like a few like phrases. Hey, that kind of dog, I'm not such a fan of that. Oh my God. It's such a big thing.
Well, yeah, but it's about everything, right?
Oh, like, absolutely. Everyone is on high alert.
To your point, you're like, what do you mean you don't like pugs? Well, fucking schnauzers are clearly the best dog ever. What the hell's wrong with you?
I don't get it. Or like, God, I watched this video the other day where they're like, when you use the scientific method and it proves you wrong. And did I tell you about this one?
No, but I love where this is going.
So this was a flat earther because I mean we're getting to the point where we're talking about crazy nonsense.
Okay.
And he designed this sound experiment, and it's been done in the past, but you drill a hole in a fence. And then you have another fence a certain distance away. You drill a hole at the same height. You drill a hole at the same height. You drill a hole at the same height. You repeat this over and over again. You set up a camera at one end. You put a flashlight at the other. If the earth is flat, you see that flashlight in the camera. This guy said, turn on the flashlight. The guy's like, it's on. He goes, well,
wow,
I can't see it. Do you have it in front of the hole? Yeah. Okay. Can you put it up higher? No, it's in front of the hole. So rather than abandon his crazy batshit argument, he's like, there's got to be something wrong with the camera.
Yeah, it's the camera.
Matt, I'm sorry about that. I got kicked off. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you I think we dropped you. Little internet situation was going on.
Is this me over here? Is this me?
Yeah, I think so.
The residual me. But, I mean, it seems to be happening across the board with everything. I mean, we're taking something that should be a logical, sound. You look, this is science. This is what the facts say, and getting nuts.
But here's a question for you, and we're going to take maybe a sharp left turn here. But,
oh no,
no. But look, we all know freedom of speech, right? Like I can say any stupid thing I want. You and I are literally on this show because we have the freedom to do this.
And,
right?
and
like
saying stupid shit all the time.
And we're saying whatever dumb shit we want to say. And I get it, right? And like, that's cool. But
yeah.
And nobody's even stopping us from promoting a flat earth theory here. Like we could jump on the horn and just start talking about flat earth, man. I mean, we can, this flashlight, he must have had a trick flashlight.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go down any weird rabbit hole you want.
It's like turtles all the way down, man.
Yeah. Turtles all the way to the bottom, right? Where's the bottom? It's just another turtle. But here's the question, man. I almost hate to open up this bag of popcorn, but I was and had been a very big Joe Rogan fan for a really long time. Right. Okay. Like, and listen, I thought the guy was hilarious, and honestly,
we are punching up.
I love, well, I mean, but look, it's got to be said in order to even ask the question. Right?
I know.
And here's where the rubber meets the road with my question here, right? Like here you have a guy who on the one side of the coin has had, I mean, hundreds of hours of awesome radio have I listened to on him. Like I mean, guest after guest after guest, right? There's been some guests there that I only found out about because of him. I mean, Rhonda Patrick was one.
Rhonda Patrick, I love her.
I love her. I never even heard of her before Joe Rogan. And Christopher Ryan, an anthropologist, I love his work, and I found out about him through Rogan. I mean, there's been just one after another, right? And then he gets this critical mass of people, this massive audience. I don't even know how many billions of followers he's got.
I don't even want to guess.
Some crazy large number. And at what point do you hold somebody accountable for saying, like, look, you know, we've got doctors, epidemiologists, actual people that have spent their entire life studying this stuff, who are basically calling for him to get banned off of Spotify because the shit he is saying is objectively, demonstrably, provably wrong. Like, it's not even like, it's one thing to be like, and I guess you could make the same argument about the flat earth. Like, it can be proven 15,000 ways from Sunday that the earth is round. But
see, my issue is the flat earth theory doesn't hurt anybody that doesn't believe in it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, to Joe Rogan's point, let me just play devil's advocate on this. I'm not forcing you to take ivermectin or...
Yeah, but if you are strongly anti-vax and you get infected and you bring that to another place and you spread that, and there is this argument right now that, look, the reason we haven't kind of contained this thing, the reason why we're seeing more variants is because of this widespread, well, I'm not getting the vaccine because I'm healthy, or, ivermectin, or like fucking high dose vitamin D, or whatever. Right. And sure, look, we both, I know you've told me this, both take high dose vitamin D.
I do it every day, yeah.
But
I also am vaccinated, boosted, like,
absolutely.
I wear a mask everywhere, like.
Absolutely. You know, and I can't help but laugh at this point when somebody famous, when somebody posts a meme of Meatloaf that says, I would do anything but love, but I won't get vaxxed. I'm a piece of shit. I'm going to laugh at that.
I'm not a piece of shit for laughing at that because, like, it's just so preventable, right? Like,
at one point you go, guys, come on, you got to get out of your own way. Come on. And now it's like, I can't stop you.
I can't stop you. Well, I mean, look, I just had an exhausting conversation with a very dear friend of mine recently who is anti-vax. And, it's been an interesting petri dish because I have such close proximity to this individual that I can actually kind of like study him in an academic kind of way. Like and his responses are pretty predictable, and it's kind of interesting. But like, tell me if you've heard this before, right? Like, he comes up to me. What was the one he said the other day? 75% of all COVID deaths were people with 4 or more comorbidities. And I said, I don't think that's true.
That is demonstrably untrue.
Well, so here's the thing. So guess what? I do one quick Google search, literally a single Google search. I put in 75% of, and it said COVID. It's like it autofilled. Like, apparently I'm not the only one. And I opened it up, and the very first 20 articles were about where the genesis of that rumor was. And what it was that the CDC said that of the 1.2 million vaccinated people that they had studied, 36 of them died of COVID. And of those, 28 of them had 4 or more comorbidities.
Oh God.
So here you have, and then when I punched him on this a little bit, I said, hey man, this, and I sent him a copy of the article because he sent me an article a couple days prior to this, and I'll get to that in a second. But I said, hey, you cited this thing, and and I even said in my text to him, I said, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I just want to make sure you're dealing with the right information, right? And it was from the CDC, and it said, we are talking only about the 1.2 million people that have died of COVID who were vaccinated. Like, we're not talking about every human who's ever died of COVID. We're only talking about 1.2 million people who died of COVID or who were
vaccinated.
Only 36 of them died of COVID, right? That's it.
And 75% of that 36
had 4 or more comorbidities. And he said, and you know what he had said to me? Because he's refusing to get his kids vaccinated either, right? And he goes, and his reply to that statement is one of the most predictable things in the world, was to change the topic. He goes, well, the death rate from children is almost 0. And I said, but we weren't talking about children.
That is a very Ben Shapiro tactic there.
Like we're not talking about like anything other than your grotesquely inaccurate fact. Like,
and if anybody's listening to this that knows how to debate, is that a false equivalency? What logical fallacy does that fall into?
Yeah, right. What is the actual technical term for this lunacy? Right?
What kind of bullshit is that?
And so, like the thing that drives me nuts about this is a couple things. One is that it is far too easy to be trapped in your own echo chamber these days, right? We've talked about this several times, right? It's super, super simple. And if you don't take a commanding role in filtering your information, then you are just going to be another victim of this situation, right?
Well, but like let's take your friend for an example, right? You give him credible sources. Look, here's tons of articles on this telling you the whole genesis, and then we're going to either deny, deflect, or change the subject.
Well, then he deflected first, and guess what? He denied second. With the denial, he goes, well, I just threw out 80%. I knew I was off, but I knew it was in the high 70s. I said, but no, you nailed the percentage. Like, that was absolutely dead on right. The only thing you got wrong was the rest of it, which is actually
the whole data points were wrong. The percentage was right.
You nailed the percentage, buddy. Knocked it out of the park. Like, you're out of here. But like the whole argument that you're making is absurd. So rewind 2 days.
Yeah.
He sent me this article and he goes, did you see this? I just thought you'd find it interesting. Now, I already knew, like we've been engaged in this text message tete-a-tete on COVID, because he knows that I think he's fucking retarded. Like, I mean, I
mean, at what point can you like, and I apologize for Matt using that term. That is a term from the early 90s.
I'm a kid of the 80s. I'm sorry. That was stupid. You're right.
But anyway. But yeah, I get it, man.
No, you're right. You should call me out on that.
I'm sorry.
Stupid.
I will
no,
be.
You should. That was absolutely insanity.
I will lean on the millennials there and say,
listen, you're absolutely right. Look, sometimes I try to filter that stuff, but sometimes old habits die hard.
Listen, man, every once in a while, like, so can I tell you a quick aside? No, because that's what we always do. So we're driving around and we're starting to get into the market for looking at a house. We think the market's starting to kind of like stabilize a little.
Right.
So we're up Harford County and we turn on one road and there's a farm, right? Plenty of farms in Harford County.
Perfect. There's
a zebra. My whole family's in the car. I go, holy shit, a fucking zebra in front of both of my kids. And I was like, oh, that's Daddy says things sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, why zebra? Why have like, it didn't make any sense to me. Nope. It just completely cooked me.
Look, I paint with words and sometimes fuck is the right color.
I mean, fuck is a good base coat.
It's a good base coat. Correct. Yeah. So he sends me this article. And he goes, I think you should read this. Now, again, we've been in this little, back and forth for days. And it said CDC drops bombshell report. And I'm like, oh, brace yourself.
The second you hear like bombshell or destroys, it's like the most lukewarm thing ever.
So then all of a sudden I was pleasantly surprised and it said natural immunity provides superior protection than vaccines alone. And I was like, oh. So basically, this is an article in support of being vaccinated. And if you are also if you happen to get COVID on top of that, you have a much more superior, if you will, protection against it. And I read the whole article, and the whole article basically plows out a bunch of stats and studies like this many people with this, and they studied every variation of people, right? COVID plus 1 vax, COVID plus 2 vax, COVID plus 3 vax.
Yeah.
And then they striated it by age group and gender and all this other stuff. It was pretty fascinating article. Anyway, I texted him back. I said, I'm not sure how to read this, because if you sent it, it's like literally the best article I could possibly have sent you, because he just got over a bedridden COVID situation, right? And I said, did you enjoy being stuck on a couch and in your bed for a week? Like, was that a fun experience? Because no, but I'm over it, and now I have more immunity than you do. And I said, that's not right.
At best, he skimmed that article. At best, he skimmed it.
And that's my point. Like, so here's a situation where you've got an otherwise intelligent human being, right? And I have to stress this in case he ever hears this and he knows exactly who I'm talking about. But he's a very intelligent person, and yet you're right. I don't think he even skimmed it. I mean, here we have somebody who's basically cherry picking the absolute top layer.
But he's not even he's not even cherry picking like the right articles. Like,
but how many people like my friend are there? Like,
I thought you were going to send me something that came from like freedomeagle.com or like crazy, like something crazy where it's like, dude, this is where barely
the vaccine
English.
Is actually like a magnetic tracker by Bill Gates or some whatever.
Well, look, man,
that
I'm still waiting for the magnetics. I don't like carrying shit in my pockets.
Every morning I wake up and I put magnets all over my body. Nothing sticks yet. I'm pretty disappointed.
I also was told I'd be dead in 6 months. It's been over 6 months.
It's been way over 6 months. But I mean, look, I've told you before on this show that I have had family members, I've had close friends that basically have these absurd, like, another perfect example, very close connection of mine, told me that he goes, masks just don't work. We should all stop wearing them. And I said, what? I said, do you know anything about like Louis Pasteur or any of the, revolutions in science around the late 1800s that maybe, realize that whole statement's fucking ridiculous? And he's like, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. And then finally we peel the onion after like, I don't know, 20 minutes of like me trying to persuade him that like over 100 years of medical research and data would absolutely tell you that masks for sure do work. And that's why we actually wear them. I finally get to the root of his problem. He goes, well, masks only work if everybody wears them all the time. And since that's not true, then we might as well not all wear them. I said, okay, but here.
That is a very different
But that's
argument.
Exactly right. That's a very different argument. And here's where the danger is. You get a guy like Joe Rogan say masks don't work when he really means.
Well, and look, you can throw Dave Asprey into that mix too, right? Right. I mean, the guy's worth 9 figures. Remember that. He would rather have you buying his supplements than protecting your, like, oh, fuck, I just called him out. Look at that. He was an idol of mine.
But I mean, and that's the thing. And you realize you're like, look, Rogan had a doctor. I can't remember his name now, but the guy, he said something about, they were talking about myocarditis in men, right? And he's like, the vaccine causes myocarditis in
Rhonda
men.
Patrick corrected him on that.
Apparently more than one person has, huh?
Rhonda Patrick, he launched her career, right?
Oh,
so 100%. I immediately was like, let's see what she says when Rogan first started getting into the fucking.
What did she say?
She corrected him at every step. She did it gently, but he would say, but this. And she said, that's simply not true. Like in a very polite way. And here's data. And yes, the vaccine can cause myocarditis in healthy males. However, 20 times more likely.
Right. So
if you get COVID.
Right. Yeah. And so the doctor that I saw it was using 8 times, but either way, it was an order of magnitude over, well, not technically an order of magnitude. I'm speaking, metaphorically, but
yeah,
it was a lot more, like a ton more, right? Like not a little bit. And Joe was like, basically up this guy's ass. He's like, you're wrong. And he's like, no, you're actually wrong. I mean, the data is the data. And the doctor was kind of shrugging. He's like, I don't even really know how to answer this because like, I know that the data says one thing and I know that the data says that because I've been studying it and that's what I do as a doctor. So he said, fine, smugly, and I watched this thing. I was like, it was almost jaw dropping me. Smugly's like, all right, let's look it up. And the doctor's like, okay, let's look it up. And you see Joe kind of like, I forget his assistant's name, but he looks it up on the thing, sends it to his computer, and he's like, yeah, that's not what I had read. Like, because he clearly got, I mean, it was like basically like
you have a guy with a doctorate,
right,
a subject matter expert that you're interviewing,
right,
and you're going to try and pull his card.
No, right, exactly my point. Like, and you're sitting there going, well, wait a minute. Why are you going to have this guy on your show if you're just going to not listen to what he's saying? I don't know the first faintest thing about neurosurgery, right? So if I walked into my doctor's office and I was like, I think you should probably use a paperclip for the initial incision, the doctor's going to look at me like I'm a moron.
Yeah, absolutely. And rightfully so.
Rightfully so. Like, no, dude, you don't use a fucking paperclip to open up your brain. And if I'm like, well, listen, I have read that the scalpel is no longer the tool of choice for making an incision in the human body. I have friends
that have told me
very informed places on Reddit that have told me.
Well, and to your point with like kind of poisoning the water with Rogan, man, I really wanted to listen to what that RNA expert that he had on was, and people are saying like, oh my God, this is going to blow the lid off of this, this COVID situation. And one of my office employees looked at me and she goes, yeah, he said he was vaccinated. Like the expert that was going to blow the lid off of it, he got the vaccine too. Now I need to listen to that. I got to sit down and put up with Joe.
Yeah, I would do that. Maybe we should do a group listen on that for a show one time, because I mean, I would listen to that, but I mean, at the same time, like I'm almost sitting there going, you know what? I don't know if jump the shark's the right word on this, but I feel like the credibility ship has left the station in this regard. And I'm like,
I believe that is apropos in this situation. He is more entertainment than he is education. And I developed a problem with him because he would have on these lunatic right-wing fascists and be like, well, we got to have both sides represented. I'm like, Nazis don't get a fucking voice, dude.
No, right.
like,
no, you can't do that, though. That's cancel culture.
Yeah, that's cancel culture. No, literally. You cancel Nazis in the head with a gun.
Yeah, like that. You can't do that. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like this Aaron Rodgers thing, right? Like Aaron Rodgers is another one, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, you get paid hundreds of millions, whatever his salary is.
Shut up and throw the ball.
Right?
I mean, that's exactly what they said when fucking Kaepernick was kneeling, and at least that was for something, relevant and good. Well, this motherfucker.
And was actually like, well, no, what Kaepernick was doing was at least demonstrably accurate, right? Like
and respectable. He talked to vets,
right. And what Rogers is doing is basically like just spreading misinformed like shit, and like
that he got from his Dr. Rogan.
But then he got from his Dr. Rogan, yeah, and that's where look, that's kind of the genesis of my question, right? Like, is there a spot in the world, in the global narrative that we all have to like participate in, where we can hold people with a bigger microphone differently accountable than smaller microphones, right? Like you and I don't
saying like yelling fire in a crowded movie theater type situation, right?
But you can't, yeah, exactly. Your rights essentially end at the tip of your nose, right? And I told my friend that I was telling you about, I said, look, I don't care what stupid health decision you make. I care about you as an individual, and I want nothing but health and happiness for you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you sit on an airplane next to my 10-year-old daughter,
you are now endangering her.
You're now messing with my rights as a parent and as a person who's taking precautions to protect their health. you're now infringing on my rights. And quite frankly, that is where my patience for this rhetoric ends.
So,
right. And like that's the big problem for me, right? Like you can't, and I told him I've used every example you could, every logical, and I guess I was told long ago by a mentor, don't fight anything with logic because you will always be the loser in that conversation. And I fought him on every piece of logic. I said, you know what? You don't have infinite rights. You can't walk into the shopping mall and smoke a cigarette. It's illegal. Like you will get a ticket for it.
It is the craziest thing.
And you will be kicked out of the mall. You know why? Because 1 million doctors have been like, no, you know what? This gives little kids and grandmas and everybody secondhand smoke
This
exposure.
hurts everyone around you.
This literally hurts everyone around you. So we've decided as a group of, as a species, that this is not okay.
And honestly, if you want to fuck off and stand out by yourself and destroy your lungs, go ahead. No one's stopping you.
Nobody's stopping you. And
like, you want to go live in the woods and fucking roll around and shit and catch COVID 50 times? Great.
Yeah, be my guest, but don't do it in my mall or next to me on my airplane, right? Like that's not okay with me because, and these people who think otherwise, I don't understand. And like, especially, and then when I fought this argument that went absolutely nowhere, I said, your kids are in public school, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, have they been in public school for a little while? And his kids are exactly my age, my kids' age, so I know. I said, so you don't actually have, the government already has the ability to tell you what vaccine.
They already have vaccines to get into the fucking school.
Right. Like, but it's not just getting them. It's their argument is, I don't want government getting in my way. Well, the government's already telling you that you cannot attend school without
half of these fucking corporate parasites he probably fucking voted for.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't even want to get down
if we just want to call out Fox News, every son of a bitch that works in a Fox News building is vaccinated.
Right. Exactly.
Fuck, I want fucking Jon Stewart to fucking rip Tucker Carlson a new one again. So he goes back to the fucking stupid ass bow tie. Right. Sorry.
And no. And like, listen, I mean, these sort of weird arguments that people get into don't make any sense to me at all, because like you said, everyone that works at Fox is vaccinated. So why are we talking 100%. About anti-vax? And then, but then I just saw the stat the other day, what was like 60-something% of America is vaccinated. So then the saving grace here, right? All these stupid people we hear about all day long, every day, and all these dumb conversations that we hear people, that is measurably less than half of the country. Like, I mean, we have a very clear majority of the country that is vaccinated. So these people that are not are just generally a very loud, very minority.
But I love that when they're like, we're the silent majority. It's like, you never shut the fuck up and there's like 10 of you.
Yeah, you're not the silent majority. You are measurably the minority.
Like, man.
But have you seen this Carhartt
yeah, where they all tried to ban them, and they're like...
And I was like sitting there going... And I wish these people could just look in the mirror for once in a while. They're like, we think the Biden administration overstepped. For anybody who didn't hear this, right? Like the Biden administration
fucking bullshit.
Overstepping by mandating vaccine. We want government to step aside and let companies choose for themselves. The Supreme Court happened to agree. They said, you know what? You're right. We shouldn't do this. We should let companies decide on their own. The next minute, what happens? Carhartt comes out. They say, fine. You wouldn't make us, so we're going to do it anyway. And the same group of people who bitched for corporate rights came out and said we should ban Carhartt because.
But this is the core of every argument, right? No, as long as you agree with me, we're okay, even if I'm wrong.
Correct.
But if you don't, you need to do what I do because it's what I believe.
Right, and that's exactly
it's fucking retarded. Oh, sorry. Now I did it.
Damn it!
I apologize, Malesh. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So not only, but I mean, and then like, let's not even go to the million other obvious arguments down this rabbit hole. But like one of which being, well, you want corporations to have all these choice about vaccines, but you don't need a woman to have a choice about a uterus.
See, I mean, it is so.
Wait a minute.
And honestly, if a woman has an abortion, who does that affect? Not me, not you, not anybody around her. I mean, she might have a pissed off partner.
Right, but it doesn't say affect like the same people as secondhand smoke or say not getting vaccinated.
And not getting vaccinated.
Yeah,
or
why not?
Thinking you're cute and wearing a mesh mask.
Right. Those for people.
Come the fuck on. Yeah. You're not some fucking great freedom fighter. You're a dipshit.
Well, and I think that's the problem, right? We conflate, taking a stand for something that actually is meaningful. And
this is the hill you literally will die on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, right? Yeah,
be my guest to do that. And,
you guys keep saying no vax and then gerrymander. Guess who's going to be left in those districts? It's like, go ahead, keep doing it.
Right.
Fuck it. And by the way, Herman Cain Awards on Reddit.
Oh, not
it is Shakespearean.
Really?
Yes. I have spent far too much time when the compassion of, guys, I just want you all to be safe. When I ran out of that, it is literally, they are carbon copies of each other.
Interesting.
I believe there's another one called Dumbass Graveyard, but that existed before COVID too. It just has taken a very strong COVID slant.
Right. This is I looked this up. I should have pre-warned you before the show. I looked at this, and this is what I got for the first post, and this might actually be the last post I read. I'll just be honest with you. It says, I'm a longtime lurker here, first out of morbid curiosity and because I felt I wasn't getting a clear picture of the situation and who it was affecting. My family are hardcore Christians, and I've been against the vaccine from the start. I've begged and pleaded, but to little avail. I finally had a breakthrough, though, thanks to the posters on here and the stories, which I've been sharing with my grandmother. It wasn't until she realized the enormity of the situation and the devastation left behind by so many lost loved ones that she finally decided to go out and get her first vaccine today. I'm beyond words. A small victory is still a victory after all. So, blah, blah, let's keep on going. And I was like...
Oh, that's a heartfelt one there, though.
It's heartfelt, but it's like... do I have to listen to 15,000 of these stories to get through this?
No. You will see the Facebook posts that that show pictures of sheep with masks on them.
Oh, no.
And something like Trump was right, this is bullshit and all this stuff. And then, you scroll 3 or 4 in, Jib Bob is in the hospital being intubated with COVID. Please send your thoughts and prayers. And then the next one's like, we set up a Jim Bob GoFundMe for the funeral costs. And like they block out the names, but you read a couple hundred of those and you're like, look, man, I can't, chances are you own a shit ton of guns. You don't go putting them in your mouth just in the name of freedom.
Right.
Just use some modicum of, self-preservation. I mean, what?
Oh my God. This one is, okay, now I see where you're going. There once was a dad from PA to face masks. He always said, nay, if I get some germ, I will take horse deworm. His funeral is scheduled for today.
They are now pretty much trolling that entire community, which but you will see. And one of my favorite things I've seen on Reddit lately is not directly related to COVID, but it easily applies. Somebody posted in some group saying, I think most people are reasonable, and if you presented them with information from a credible source that disproved their position, they would change it. So right underneath, somebody posts, here's 2 peer-reviewed articles in journals that says that doesn't happen.
Right.
And the OP literally turned around and goes, well, that's just how I feel. And it's like, that's exactly the fucking point.
Right.
Your feelings, don't they always say, fuck your feelings?
Right. Right.
It's like, this is not a feeling thing. We're like, and we're not upset if you say, let's go Brandon. We're mature enough to say fuck Joe Biden, but we're saying it for actual issues we have with Joe Biden. Like,
well, yeah.
You don't like him because he's not your golden calf.
This is absolutely kind of a sad little thing, though. Like, there's a million of these people that are like, oh, I'm in Wisconsin and the death rate is 0.09%. I'll take those odds. She died 3 days ago. I'm like, oh no.
I mean, I made fun of Meatloaf, but in good news, I think a guitarist for a neo-Nazi punk band just died.
Oh, sweet. Well,
Well, see, like,
lining.
COVID doesn't seem so bad. It's kind of
this guy. His wife was battling stage 4 cancer. He wouldn't get vaccinated. Now, let's just full stop there, right? Like, forget about what else happens in this article.
Yeah.
Like, on what planet does somebody that you care about enough to marry have stage 4 cancer, and you're like, nah, I'm fucking good. I'm not gonna. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
None of it. But look, man, and to speak.
What are you hoping to gain by not vaccinating yourself when your wife has stage 4 cancer? Like, what are you proving?
The depth of this belief is insane. When we reopened, the first people to come back were medical staff. They were stressed out, just fucking watching people die all the time. 2 separate nurses at 2 separate hospitals came in just about to break down. Both of them said right before we intubated this patient, their last words, because they died shortly after, were, "How can this be happening? This is all a hoax."
Uh-huh. There's no way. That can't be true. Really? They that's what they said? Oh, my God.
2 different nurses, 2 different hospitals. And in my head, I was like checking out all my beliefs. I don't hold any belief that strongly that I'm willing to die over it if it's an opinion.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, no, that's a good point, right? Like, if I'm classifying something, I think, as my opinion, like, I feel blue is a better color than orange. But if somebody says, "Hey, listen, man, that looking at that color is going to sear your eyeballs out," you're like, "All right, cool. Well, I'm done with that." I mean, I feel like
you got one credible source. All right,
we had a good run, but I'm done with blue. I mean, it doesn't really. Oh, yeah, these stories are terrible. I mean, thank you and fuck you for telling me about this. Like,
I'm sorry, man. I don't know. Is it cringe watching that I do?
I know.
Is it
what is wrong with you, man? Go fucking clip off the Reddit.
I'm not on Facebook anymore because like that is a colossal shit show.
All right. I have to make fun of you, though. I have another friend a really good friend from grammar school. Like, I mean, I've known her forever. And she's like, I couldn't take it anymore. I got off of Facebook. 6 months goes by. She's back on Facebook with a new name. Somehow that's different, but she never got rid of Instagram or whatever. I'm like, okay, look.
Instagram, I feel like you can curate a little bit differently.
I know, but that's like saying, like, I thought I had an alcohol problem, so I gave up alcohol, but I still drink beer. Like, it's kind of like
I got you. So look, as a business owner, I need the accounts, right? So the last time I posted or did anything was when my mentor died about a year ago.
Okay.
But that was after about 3.5 years of like no interaction on there.
Right. I'm just saying, like, listen, I'm making fun of you because a lot of people I know, listen, a lot of people I know do what you just said. They're like, I had to give up Facebook. I'm like, great. That sounds great. If you think you had to. Look, I have a Facebook account. You know what I use it for? And I use it every day.
What?
I say happy birthday to any one of my friends who has a birthday that day.
That's very nice of you, because I never did that.
I spend precisely 4 seconds doing that. It takes me no amount of time. I give them a little note. I say happy birthday. I feel very, they all like it and whatever. And that's the end of the interaction. And tomorrow I wake up, I do the same thing.
That's great.
I've done this for years.
That's good of you.
Right. And here's the funny thing. I look at some of my Facebook friends when I give them the little happy birthday. The last correspondence we had was last year when I said happy birthday and they said liked it, whatever. And, that's all I do. And people are like, well, I got on there and like 2 hours went by. And I'm like, how would you ever, as an adult, let 2 hours of your life cruise by fucking doom scrolling Facebook because all you're doing is like wondering why this bitch is on vacation and you're not. Why this kid's going to Harvard and your kid's in fucking county college. Like, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it's just, nothing about any of that is healthy. And we all know it. We can save that for another time, but.
Well, you know, I think people take it too. And even the influencers on Instagram and things like that. It's like, you're pretty. We get it.
Yeah.
You're pretty in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's like, okay.
You're still hot in Venezuela.
I get it.
Yeah. I get
People
it.
give you money to send you places because you're attractive. And I feel like, honestly, you're going to think I'm nuts. I'm enjoying TikTok. That is my one. Look, man, I found this guy that has an oddities shop and he comes and he talks about these weird ass fucking items he finds. And
I mean, look, it is, but it's like TikTok is probably like the most formulaically predatory in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like, within one thumbs up, they knew exactly who the fuck I was.
Yeah. They were like, dude, we got this dude's number, bro. Like, I mean, and you're like fucking like on their radar. And like, that's the thing. They're not even hiding it. They're like, oh yeah, no, we're tracking everything and we're totally filling your head with craziness. Like, we are going to make you
absolutely
the worst version of yourself we could possibly make you. It's like almost like their mission statement.
You know, I'll blame them for radicalizing me.
Well, I mean, look, yeah. It's funny. Anyway, we could talk about this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, dude, I did want to tell you some fun news because we got to end on a fun note.
Yeah.
I have a great new toy.
What'd you get?
Headway. Headway is an app for like $60 a year. It will read you a book in 17 minutes or less.
I think I saw this and I passed on it.
And so somebody recommended, so I got started with this because somebody recommended reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This book was written 60, 70 years ago. It was like the first sort of self-help book ever written, right? It's like Thomas Edison was alive when he wrote this book. Like, it was basically like, it was forever ago, right? Like,
I will say that book does have some things that are a little.
Oh no, that book is a fucking shit show of inappropriate. Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a crazy book. I mean, but it's funny. 70 years later, the concepts that he talks about in that book have changed precisely 0 degrees.
Yeah,
like, it's like literally the same shit. And what's funnier still, and because I could clip off these books through Headway so fast, I've read like 4 books this weekend, right? Like, and what's funny is 3 of them could have just been a different synopsis of Think and Grow Rich. Like, these books have not materially changed in 70 years.
I gotta say, I watched a YouTube video on how to write a bestseller.
I mean, it's crazy, right?
And the dude was like, pick a famous book, change the characters and the setting. And it was like, what?
Yeah, what?
And then he listed like 10 books that were all Romeo and Juliet.
Right. No, and it's that, but exactly right. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, like, it's crazy. So anyway, I got this and I'm clipping these books off like crazy and it's awesome. So what I did was I downloaded on Audible because I had a bunch of credits left over.
Yeah.
And it said, and I downloaded Think and Grow Rich. And then I downloaded my sample from Headway and I was Think and Grow Rich. I listened to the synopsis, 17 minutes long, done, out the door. And I was like, I could have predicted this book. Like, and now granted, I have the historical reference of having read dozens of books just like it that I now realize are exactly written to formulaically translate the Think and Grow Rich book. But anyway, I'm listening to the full version and I gotta be honest with you. I mean, they hit the synopsis on the fucking nose. Like, it was absolutely the only relevant parts of the whole book were distilled into 17 minutes. Like, and I gotta say, like, I do like reading books for the nuance and the layers in some topics, but like in this particular case, you don't need nuance or anything. What's the fucking point? Blah, 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 blah. Great. Done.
You want the concepts, especially in a book like that.
Well, that's all I want in a book like that. Like, this isn't To Kill a Mockingbird where we want to unravel the nuance of Boo Radley, right? Like, we're not sitting there, like getting involved in this or, whereas in this is like basically Think and Grow Rich. It's in the fucking title. I just want to get rich. Like, that's
you just want to get rich.
How do I do that? Right. And by the way, just as a spoiler alert, the salient point of Think and Grow Rich is don't give up. Just keep going. I'm like, oh, thank you. Fucking thank you for that. That was... But meanwhile, he actually uses the word colored people amongst many other...
He says some very sexist shit in that book, too, doesn't he?
It is misogyny, thinly veiled racism, and a whole bunch of... It's a bit challenging from that standpoint. And thank God that the Headway version actually clips through all of that shit. You know, like, so if it like glosses over all of that. So you put like a nice veneer over it all to like.
It's like a U.S. history book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right.
Like, there were Indians and then there weren't. And then we had slaves and then there wasn't. And
that just happened, right? It just was a thing. Oh, man. I mean, but yeah, so I'm reading the actual book, and it's like, wow. So every man should read this because his wife is going to be at home, and this is how he takes care of the home by asking better questions to make more money for his family. I was like, what? And then like the next chapter, it's like, well, a colored person was saying something. I'm like, I'm sorry, what now?
Who?
Like, what are you saying, man? Like, it was. I mean. There has been more than a few dozen instances in that book where I was like, I'm not even sure what to think about this. Like, it's now you have to take it in historical context. This was written in a way different time, but at the same time, you're like, we still promote this book? Like, what the fuck? Why do we have this on bestseller list still? Like, this is bizarre. You know, and I think this is on Audible. It was like the revised 2021 version or something too. I'm like,
wow.
You couldn't have fucking hit the edit button on any of this shit. You were recording it. Just don't read that part, man. Like, I mean, come on.
God, even Disney doesn't play like, what is it? The Songs of the South anymore. You can't find that movie.
You just want to be like, what the fuck? Yeah,
what the hell? How was this okay?
Yeah, who thought this was a good idea for a children's book? So, but anyway, that's my new toy.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
It is definitely
now I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's easy. $60 for the year to kind of like spot check, like, you know, there's actually this cool thing that I do like I read Life of the Stoics.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And now all of a sudden it's created a modern philosophy basics, and it's a 28-day challenge where if I just read a different book for 28 days, and it's like 12 rules for life, ikigai, you know, think like a monk. Like, I mean, you know, you've heard a bunch of these things.
So you don't pay for the individual books. You just
just pay for the $60 a year.
I got to do that, man.
I mean, it's neat. Now their selection is somewhat limited from what I understand, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, but for $60, if you blow through their whole catalog in 1 year.
Yeah, but like Dave, like I read Think and Grow Rich. So as a result, the 28-day challenge there. The second book is The Education of Millionaires, followed by Good to Great, followed by the 80-20 principle.
Oh, so they're trying to kind of get you through a certain track, if you will.
Well, that's because I'm sure it's an AI thing, like it based on the book I read. Like I downloaded Think and Grow Rich as my trial. So now the first challenge, quote unquote, that I got was this. But these books you've all heard of: Rework, the 10X Rule, Start with the Why. I mean, I've read half of these books.
Sinek.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like Measure What Matters, you know, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Like, I mean, Dare to Lead. I mean, again, with Limitless.
These are all well-known bestsellers.
Correct. So like, here's the thing. Even if I read all 28 of the books in just that one challenge, that's probably worth way more than $60.
$60. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and that doesn't even count. I read one that said, Buy Yourself the Fucking Lilies. And I just like the title, and I think it was definitely written from a woman's standpoint for other women.
Yeah.
It was an interesting book, but like, again, that book was wildly unimaginative and super redundant by 15 other books that I can quote. Like, it was basically like, you should journal. You should, you know, cite, you know, what was another thing? You know, imagine yourself in the finish line of your goals and like stuff like you've seen. I mean, like, come on. I mean, it's like writing a diet book. Eat right, do exercise. There.
Yeah.
Every diet book ever written. You're like, okay, great. Thank you. You know, and how many different ways can we rewrite those two tenets, right? So what are you getting into?
Man, I've been all in on these goddamn books I'm trying to write. And that's pretty much been it. It's every morning writing. I got to say, I got not too much else going on.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
I mean, that's all right with me now.
Well, I mean, you keep talking about these things. They better be goddamn bestsellers.
I don't think they will be because, there's like 1 billion books right now. Everybody writes a book.
Everyone writes a book.
Everyone writes a book.
Here's my business card. Here's my book.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this will spring me to some other kind of avenues, not.
Where it's going to take you for sure? To your second book.
To my, that'll be my third, man.
There you go.
Look at this one. I got made fun of when I mentioned this as a book, right? It's like that wide.
Put it in the camera. I can't read it. Yeah. Okay. What was the cover?
Boom.
What's it say?
I wrote this book. You got sick. Now what?
Right.
Because I was trying to score all these interviews, and the first word out of somebody's mouth is like, well, where have you been published? So I go, okay, the North American Journal of Oriental Medicine, and this and this and this, and they go, no, what's your book? And I'm like, well, that's not what that means to a clinician. So I wrote a fucking book.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Well, listen, I mean, I hope to God to read this thing one day. I mean,
well, look, I'll send you the transcript. It's only half done.
I mean, did You Got Sick Now What make headway? I mean, maybe you should call them up and get it in there.
Every few years, I get like 30 cents in royalties.
Nice. That's
great.
Fantastic.
It's great. Yeah. That's great.
One of these days you could buy yourself a cup of coffee.
One of these days I'm going to supersize it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Did they still supersize it? I haven't been to a McDonald's in forever.
Yeah. My kids despite all that I am, my kids still prefer McDonald's over just about any other food ever. And I just refuse to get it. So they're like, every time my wife takes them out somewhere, I know what they're coming back with.
They're coming back with McDonald's.
McDonald's. It's like,
see, my kids will only eat a handful of things, and one of them, believe it or not, the younger one, if we go out and we don't get paneer tikka masala from one restaurant, it's got to be that restaurant. She won't eat.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay, well, hey,
it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, but
nice. Okay,
there's so many other cuisines.
There is. I mean, I don't know. Kids are weird. You got to give them a little something. I just hope it doesn't turn into this is how they eat as adults, because their waistline will, and their doctor bills will.
I getcha, man. Well, some point everybody wises up, right?
Right. Well, hey, not everybody.
Not everybody. We just talked about that.
The flashlight. We just spent an hour talking about all the people that don't fucking wake up to that. But I mean, I mean, come on. Let's hope that they're a small amount of people, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. As always.
All right. Yeah, man. This is awesome. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.